Hi there, and welcome to this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent T. Thanks for joining us here on one of the world's biggest gun talk programs as we chat with the interesting folks who make up the world of shooting. Well, our interesting guest today is none other than Roy Huntington, and he's going to stop by and chat about a topic he suggested, which is archaic cartridges for modern folks. Just because a cartridge is 120 or 130 years old doesn't mean that it's not still a good one, and we're going to talk about why you may want to pick up something in, say 4440 or one of those old cartridges, and how you can still have a lot of fun with them. Before we do that, of course, a couple of things. Make sure you like and subscribe. That's how we justify our phony baloney jobs. And we need to listen to a quick word from our great sponsor, Armscor and Rock Island Armory, and then we'll talk to Roy Huntington.
The STK series blends the advantages of a striker-fired pistol with everything you love about your 1911. The STK100 Ultra has an updated frame with more aggressive side grip panels and checkered front and back straps, but we didn't stop there. You'll see that the optic footprint is now larger, which means even more options for your favorite red dot. The new STK from Rock Island Armory. Experience the power and precision of the Rock today. For more info, visit Armscor.com.
Hey there, Roy. How you doing?
You know, I'm archaic.
Well, I've got a visual aid. You mean like that? It's a fountain pen. How about that? We were talking about this, and I grabbed a pen out of my desk, and it's a darn fountain pen, because I still use fountain pens occasionally.
You know what? I'm embarrassed to say I used to buy really good quality fountain pens, but I didn't use them enough, and so the ink would tend to dry in the nib.
Exactly.
So I discovered, like, Pentel or somebody has this 10-pack of disposable fountain pens.
That's exactly what that is.
And it's great because you can use it and put it away for a month, and then pick it up and use it, and it still goes.
Isn't that funny? Well, fountain pen, it's old technology. Some folks that appreciate it still use it, but you know something else that's kind of along those lines? Cartridges. There's a lot of archaic cartridges out there that folks still like to shoot, including you and I and millions of others, and you suggested the topic, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about these obsolete, old technology, old archaic cartridges. Why would anybody in the world shoot those kind of things? So we're gonna talk about that now. So, okay, you've got a project you're working on right now, and you've got the cartridge. I had to admit I wasn't sure what it was when you held it up. So what is it you're working on right now?
Well, I recently got an 1894 Marlin lever-action rifle, which if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see a video of it, and it's this beautiful, beautiful gun. And so this is not the cartridge. This is a 30-30 Winchester, which is an archaic cartridge.
Yeah.
This is the cartridge the new rifle is chambered in, and that's a 25-20. And if you can't see this, one is teeny tiny and one is much bigger. And so the thought crossed my mind, though, is that, you know, there are archaic cartridges, but why are they still popular? Why do people still shoot them?
Well, let me answer that question. Because they work? Is that possible? I mean, do things still work?
Well, you know, if you're not subject to the gotta have it what's new, you know, it's like I saw this clothing special on TV the other day, and it was about how many millions of tons of new clothing that gets thrown away every year in the United States. It's because companies introduce, well, now it's blue.
Yeah.
So everyone throws away the green one and runs out to buy blue ones, even though the green ones still work fine, right?
Well, there's even a term for that called FOMO. And the funny story was, when I first got hired here, we had a salesperson who was kind of doing a redesign of things. And one of the things that this person said is, you know, we have to address that FOMO and make people feel like they're missing. And I said, oh, it's okay. Question, what is FOMO? And everyone laughed. They laughed at me, Roy, not with me, at me.
They would be laughing at me because I don't know what it means either.
Fear of missing out.
Oh.
And I have to say, this is not one of those denying protesting too loud. I really don't worry about missing out on stuff. And it is wonderful, and it is freeing, and it's just not ever been a thing that I've been real worried about. Maybe in my younger days, but I don't worry about missing out, and I'm kind of good with that. But I would say the rest of the world, to one degree or another, really does fall prey to FOMO. And I think it explains why there's hundreds of new cartridges coming out every year, because this 6.554 Creedmoor EE is even better, and while 1/1000th better ballistic coefficient. And you've got to grab it or you're going to miss out.
What is an archaic cartridge? And so I think if you said archaic cartridge, people would think, oh, it's old-fashioned, that's old stuff like that. So if I say 45 Colt, do you think, oh, that's archaic, which many people would say doesn't work very good anymore? It's like a Model T, right?
Yeah.
Well, except the 45 Colt is probably one of the most popular hunting handgun cartridges ever, and continues to grow and continues to be innovated. And it's more than 150 years old.
Yeah.
Right? And we can say the same thing for the 4440, the 3840, 3220. All the 32s are making a huge comeback right now. And 22 Hornet. I mean, here's a 22 Hornet. I have a 22 Hornet. And this was the first sort of, kind of hot shot little varmint round. 35 grain bullet, not real fast, like 2,400 feet per second, I think, which is sedate in today's world. I'm sure there are people out there right now sneering and looking down their nose at me. But I can't tell you the number of groundhogs that have fallen to this cartridge, out to maybe 250 and 300 yards. And the 2520, along with a passel of other cartridges, I mean hundreds of cartridges that were made, let's call it from the Western era until today. There is really only a handful that are still around, like these ones we're talking about, 4570, for instance, 3855. Many of them have disappeared, and I think they disappeared because of all the reasons that a lot of these new man bun cartridges that are coming out are going to disappear. Because they get thrown out there in the market. Because I know in the early days, Winchester and Remington, they did it too. Winchester would come out with a new cartridge because they had to, because they needed to sell more guns, right?
Yeah.
Even though another cartridge worked perfectly fine, right? So that's the FOMO thing. They had that even in 1872. Yeah, true. Because if you look at all Winchester ads, they say, "Don't be the FOMO guy." Only he has a mustache like yours.
Yeah.
And so what they found out, though, because the market abhors a vacuum, people quickly learned, well, why am I going to buy this new cartridge? I already have a gun that works fine. I already have this ammunition. Why would I change? So now, but a lot of people did change, and then much to their chagrin, something happened, the same thing that happens today, which is a year later or 2 years later or 5 years later, Winchester has now gone on to some other new cartridge and new rifle and everything, and then this old one is now out of production, and everyone looks down on it, right?
Yeah.
Except the cartridges that have proven that they have legs, the 45 Colts and the 38 Specials and the 4440s and the 3220s and the 2520s, they still make them because they sell, right? So when you pick up a Remington catalog or a Federal catalog and you see cartridges like 3030 Winchester, 270, 30-06, 300 Win Mag, the list goes on, 357 Magnum, it's because they still sell.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, they still sell because they still work. And so, I mean, I've got an open-end wrench up in my shop that's probably 150 years old. And it still takes bolts off of things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's not as pretty as that polished Snap-on that you paid 10 times the same amount, or 10 times the amount.
Well, and I think a tool analogy is a good analogy. All you have to do is go inside Harbor Freight, and they have 25 different hydraulic floor jacks there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have two. I have a smallish one that's lightweight, and then I have a bigger one to pick up the front end of the tractor. And every time I go into Harbor Freight, I look, and I have no desire to buy any other jack. Now, there was a time, though, where I would have gone in there and said, oh, my God, look, it's in green. Oh, I want that jack now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Well, no, it's not just the shooting community, and I'm not just making fun of shooters because we're subject to all of it. All you have to do is go in a cooking store, and they make the shooting community look,
Yeah.
I mean, like novices, or fishing, God forbid.
I was going to say the fishing. Today was diving into fishing. The ICAST, which is the SHOT Show of the fishing world, it's getting ready to come up, and I'm being bombarded with this new worm is now a 1/7 of an inch smaller.
I know. See, and I don't know why there's a break. Because you have somebody who seems pretty bright, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you'll see them get that glazed look in their eye, and suddenly they're buying a $600 bait casting reel.
Yeah.
Yep. And, I mean, I understand that, and I appreciate that. I just bought a $2,000 rifle that shoots an archaic cartridge. And so I'm... I live in a glass house, and so I have to be careful not to cast stones.
Yeah.
But I think the people who truly don't understand what I'm talking about right now, I think they're missing out.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be victims at some level.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
because I want to say 100 years from now is the 224 Valkyrie going to be considered a classic American cartridge. Meanwhile, when you go to whatever, because Sam's Club will own the world then, so when you go to your local Walmart, in the gun section, in the ammunition section, you're going to see 30-06, 243, 270,
Yep.
308, 38 Special, 357 Magnum, 45 Colt, and you may have to say, do you have any of these like 224 Valkyries? And they're going to stare at you. And they'll probably point you at whatever the hot new cartridge is for that moment. Huh?
No, but we've got the 226 Valkyrie with higher BC and 3 feet per second faster.
I was talking to a guy the other day, and he's a little younger than me. He's like 60. He's a diehard hunter, goes deer hunting every deer season, gets drawn for tags out of state. If it's turkey season, he's hunting turkey. If it's whatever it is, right? He's doing it all the time. And he has like 2 rifles and a shotgun and a 22 pistol.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so funny. He just says, first of all, he laughs at the people that deer hunt in 5 and 6 and 700 yards, because it is a thing people like to do. And frankly, I think it's disrespectful and it's reckless. I'll just go on record and say that. And if you do that, go ahead. It's legal, but I don't think it's wise. And this guy was really funny. He said, yeah, I guess they're just not good enough to get any closer.
Exactly.
And I thought, that's funny. Well, here we have a 2520, which we've talked about. If I go like this, it looks like it's a big cartridge, but here you can see how big it is. It's a little tiny cartridge. It shoots call it an 85 or 90 grain bullet at about 1,800 feet per second, give or take a little bit, maybe 2,000, depending on what the load is and everything. Well, that cartridge is responsible for taking the largest buck in history. Mm-hmm. And you can Google it. It's called the Jordan buck. And you'll find it. And so the guy shot it, and it was obviously 100 years ago, I guess. So the guy shot it, and they kind of lost it. And then I think it was discovered the next day, like just down the road a ways on the railroad tracks. So, I mean, in all rights, people today would look at that and sneer. I mean, if I went and showed up in a deer camp and I said I was shooting this, well, of course, depending. Some deer camps, they'd say, wow, that's cool. Can I shoot the rifle? But many of them would pull these, $5,000 super acrylic plexiglass carbon fiber fluted barrel ported braked suppressed rifles out and sneer.
Yeah. And we have to go down this road. We find ourselves defending ourselves quite a bit, but let's get this out. We are FUDs. We embrace FUDness. We are the lethal FUDs. We've said that before. But I mean, truly, the point we keep trying to get across, we're not against the new rifles, the new cartridges and all that. I think really what we're trying to say here is there's another way. And if you try that other way, you may find that you're just as fulfilled or maybe even more satisfied because you didn't spend all that money. You didn't keep up with the Joneses. And sure, the guys may rib you in deer camp a little bit because you don't enter that arms race of buying the latest, greatest. But again, I've always felt like I was kind of an old soul. I always appreciated the old guys and the old saying of, beware of the man that owns one rifle. He can probably shoot it. Some of the coolest, toughest, most hardcore guys I've ever met wear overalls and wear seed caps. But if you knew what they had done in their life, whether hunting, warfare, or a combination thereof, a lot of times these guys tell stories, true stories that'll curl your hair, but they don't have to put on airs. So that's all we're saying is we're not hating on these new cartridges. We're just saying, there's nothing wrong with the old simply because it's old. Did I capture that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I just want people to have an open mind. If you're a relatively new shooter and I got slammed the other day because I was saying just what I'm going to say right now, which is, and your life is Glocks and AR-15s. Someone said, well, you're trashing them and everything. And I said, no, I'm just saying if your life is Glocks and AR-15s, I'm not going to say, well, then you're stupid, because you're not. But I think that you're missing out on so much if you don't expand that knowledge. And plus, you got here for a reason. In other words, Glocks and AR-15s came from somewhere. And so it's good to know the history. We've had a lot of success with our YouTube channel, and I've introduced a lot of people to a lot of older and interesting guns. And I'm seeing a real trend lately, and I'm seeing it more and more, and that is that younger shooters who admit they're younger, they say, hey, I'm a Gen X, I'm a Gen Z, I'm a whatever the other, millennial, and I had no idea this stuff even existed. And, for some reason, this video on this fill-in old lever-action rifle or something showed up in my feed. And I don't normally care about lever-action rifles, but I watched it. I saw your enthusiasm. I saw how beautiful the rifle was. I loved hearing about the history, and now I'm interested.
That's
and
great.
And that's all we're saying. And like, what was it? Not too long ago, I had a comment on one of the single shot rifles videos I did, and he was very dismissal and perfunctory. I've no interest in that because it only holds one shot. It's a waste of my time and a waste of your time to be talking about this.
Okay.
And I said, okay, well, Conrad, you're king of the grumpy forest there,
Yeah.
And yeah. I just said, that says you're right. And if you don't want to own a single shot rifle, there's nothing wrong with that. Have a nice time, own whatever you want, enjoy it, go shoot, be safe, teach other people how to shoot. I said, but the key here is, don't necessarily berate something that I think you may not really know a lot about.
Yeah.
So, sometimes people will comment and they say, well, you guys are stupid. You don't know anything about anything. And that if somebody does that, they're all going to get killed and, and on and on and on, right? Well,
yeah.
I always click on their little YouTube moniker. They have the little link, right?
Yeah.
Then commenting. 99.9999% of the time when it opens, there's no videos posted. It's just there they are. right?
Yeah.
Okay, close. Well, so I've taken to saying, well, I understand that you think single-shot rifles have no use. You think the cartridges are, get ready for the word, archaic, and you think that people who do understand them and like to hunt with them and target shoot with them are wasting their time and they don't know anything about it. And I said, so if that's the case, I checked your YouTube channel and I couldn't help but notice that you had no videos posted. So why don't you make some videos, based on your extensive experience, and tell us why we're wrong. Right?
That's funny.
Wow. And I know. I did that one time just as a funny thing, and so I click on, he says, I'm an older gentleman too, and I think whatever you're doing, whatever we were talking about was a waste of time and stupid. Right? You don't know anything about anything. And I said, okay. So I clicked on his name, and it ended up he has all these like hentai cartoon videos, right?
Really?
I know, which is really, I mean,
older gentleman.
I know.
Not buying that.
Yeah. No. And so how are you qualified to comment on whether or not whatever we were talking about? It's like,
wow.
I told one guy, I said, man, I shot my first .22 rifle when I was 8 years old. I'm 70 years old now. I don't know how many years that is, right?
Yeah.
So 62. So I've pretty much been shooting nonstop since then. So I've only been doing this for 62 years. And I took my first Smith & Wesson revolver apart in 1973 or 72, and I've never stopped taking them apart. And so I think people miss out if they don't have an open mind. It's like listen to people who have some experience because you might learn something.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're always right. I'm not saying what we do is always the best thing to do, but if someone writes you a letter or someone comments and says, I don't really agree with you guys about those archaic cartridges, and I think that you should take advantage of new technology and new ammunition and bullet designs if you're going to go hunting, I can't disagree with him.
Well, yeah. I'll tell you.
But that's the way to approach it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
I just had to clean out my gun locker yesterday, and I didn't want to. It was one of those, I got to do this, and I got to find something. And it was enlightening at some point. I had to sit back. It was pretty warm, and I'm like, man, it's hot. And I turned the fan on, and I sat back and just kind of considered. I had guns every freaking place. I had everything from some of the literal newest, latest, greatest, including some stuff you, the public, haven't even seen yet. Maybe never see, but I've got everything from that to, antique guns prior to 1900. And I was thinking, but I like them all. I've got 6.5 Creed. I got several 6.5 Creed rifles. And I'm thinking, when can I go hunt with those? I've hunted with them out of state. When am I going to hunt here? And then I've also got, old 270s and stuff like that. And it's like, can't wait to hunt with that. And what I got to thinking while you were talking, Roy, is we've pointed out, we've been blessed to know some of the biggest names in this industry by virtue of what we do. And I think one thing that sets off true experts in any field, whether you're talking plumbing, shooting, fishing, whatever, is the guys that are really at the top of the heap, the best of the best at whatever this is. They have that insatiable curiosity that if you show up with your 3230, they don't go, well, that's stupid. They go, real? What is that? Oh, okay, yeah.
Can I see it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you want to be the suave master, if you want to really learn and be one of the best at this field or whatever, the idea of being open-minded and wanting to discover all these different things, again, we've said it a dozen times now, you don't have to embrace these cartridges or go hunting with them, but don't dismiss them offhand without at least giving it some consideration.
Well, I think the Renaissance man comes to mind.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, if you are a meat hunter and you live in the rural area and so you have a bolt action 30-06 and your goal is to shoot a deer every year, I understand. You probably don't subscribe to a gun magazine. You really don't care about anything. You buy whatever 30-06 ammo is on sale at Walmart, and there's not a darn thing wrong with any of that. But if I think what a lot of these younger people don't understand is that you and I can speak AR-15 with the best of them.
Yeah.
You know, I can speak polymer pistol. I mean, like you say, I had a new Springfield Kuna here. I have a HK MP5. I've shot all the latest, lightweight fancy bolt guns. And, I mean, we've seen it all. We've done it all. And, but I also have experience with all the historical guns and what goes with them, the reloading challenges and things like that. And so what that serves to do is it makes you more well-rounded. And I think if someone demeans that, well, then it's a reflection of themselves, at least in my opinion,
Yep.
Because like you say, I've been in hunting camps, and if somebody pulls out Grandpa's rusty Model 92 Winchester in 2520, most of the people I know would say, gosh, that's a very cool rifle. May I see it? And but I've also been in hunting camps where a lot of the people there would have absolutely zero interest in it, And I think for me too, it's not just the mechanics of it; it's the legacy of it. And so, if there's not a personality attached to it, it's just a piece of steel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a hunk of iron, But like when I look at this 2520 here, I think of that Mr. Jordan. And the day he loaded this in his Marlin rifle and saw the biggest buck in the world standing in front of him, and he took the shot,
Yep.
So, suddenly it brings everything alive.
Well, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something to the effect of, we don't really own guns. We possess them for a while.
Yeah, we're
and then
caretakers.
Yeah, we're caretakers.
Yeah.
Exactly. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking that's always what goes through my mind. Every time I can be at a gun show and pick up 100 old guns and look at them and think, I wonder who and when and how and what this gun has seen and the people it's been with and the adventures it's had and the adventures it's facilitated. And for a guy that writes stories for a living, that is just such feedstock for all these stories. And, I think people are living a more dull life if they don't at least have that curiosity of, where has that gun been? What has that gun done? Or even if it's brand new, but it's in one of these older cartridges, you think, what all had to come to this point in time that I'm holding this new rifle in 3220?
I agree 100%. It's interesting because you see a pre-64 Winchester, you see, a Remington 700 from the 60s or 70s or something. I think they still have a presence.
Yeah.
When it's a bolt action hunting rifle in 30-06, but with an old Leupold scope on it, or Redfield, but it has a certain presence. It has some life experience. It's been there. But for me, after about in the 80s, even now, that's been 40 years.
Yeah.
When I see an 80s bolt action hunting rifle, it usually kind of leaves me cold. I mean, it's just a tool, you know. I mean, it's custom guns, and there are some nice guns like that. But so something has changed through the years. When I did that video on this really pretty 1894 Marlin, which you should go to FMG Publications in our YouTube channel and click on Shorts, and you'll see that video is right there. It's a real pretty lever gun. One of the people made a comment there. It was really cool. He said, thank you for sharing this. This is a work of art. It's wonderful. It makes me think of 1905 when the rifle was built, and it's a crisp winter morning, and the new owner steps outside and loads his rifle with that lovely little 2520 cartridge and steps off as his boot crunches in the snow, off to take a small deer for his family. And this is pretty much how he wrote it.
Yeah.
And I thought, yes, That's exactly it. I mean, when I pick up that rifle and I run that action and I put it on my shoulder, I think somebody in 1905 did the same thing with this rifle. Yep. And when he first bought it, you know, and to me, that's amazing. And the beauty of it, though, is that these kinds of guns will still have that persona 100 years from now.
Yep.
And
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, there's something wrong with Glocks and polymer pistols and all that, but I really honestly don't think that they're going to have the same panache 100 years from now, you know?
Yep.
I look back, I don't know, a plastic 1/4-inch drill from the 60s, you know, I don't pick that up, or, you know, electric drill.
Yeah.
I don't pick that up and go, wow, look at that, you know? I mean, I will say there were some cast aluminum Craftsman 1/4-inch drills from the 50s, I think. My dad had one, and I saw one at a garage sale the other day, and that stopped me in my tracks because I picked it up. But why did it stop me? Was I went right down that memory road, you know, and this video loop started to play of my dad and I in the garage and him using that old scratchy sounding 1/4-inch drill, you know. Remember, you could see the arc, the sparks inside.
Oh yeah.
When the
and you smelled the ozone while you were using it.
smell the ozone, yeah. And so there are things, it's not just guns, other things can do it too. Maybe an old baseball mitt from the 40s that your dad had, you know, you pick that up and smell the leather, that's going to take you back there. But if I pick up a polymer pistol and smell it, I just probably smelled dog hair because it was laying on the carpet over here. You know,
that's funny.
Sorry, polymer pistol makers. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to hit before we go, because we got to wrap this up, but I actually got to thinking that, and I would be interested in your opinion on this, Roy. I would bet of late, say the last 5 years, there's probably more guns from the factory being chambered for some of these cartridge than there has the past 40 or 50 years, because it just seems like there's a greater appreciation for some of these quote-unquote antique cartridges. And I'm not talking the 30-30, you know, something you can still buy today, but the 32-20, 44-40, it's pretty easy to find a rifle new from the factory that's chambered in those. You think that's true, Roy, or am I wishful thinking there?
Well, and there about 10 years ago or so, there was a brief surge in that. Marlin, Winchester, some of those, you know, Remington was loading a lot of the cartridges. But I think it was a bit early because they came out, they sold some to guys like John Taffin and me, right? But I think the next group of shooters were a little too young. They looked at that and they went, well, that's silly. Why would I want to go into that? What was that? 32 what?
Yeah.
You know,
I want a 10 millimeter.
I want a 10 millimeter. Yeah. 10 millimeter Trident Valkyrie, you know. But now I'm just starting to see what you're talking about, which is lever action, you know, in a certain caliber, or a single shot, you know, in a certain caliber. And of course, it's a shame right now because the market's kind of flat, so there's not a lot of pushing for new products and pushing for new SKUs and stuff like that going on. But I think when we bounce away from this, which we will, we always have, I think you are going to see that more interest in the historical. I mean, you know, there Bobby Tyler, you know, and some of these other guys are doing these, you know, real retro guns, and it's popular. Plus, we old guys have money, and we're not afraid to spend it.
If we could just get that across to the marketing directors at some of these places.
I know. You're exactly right. I mean, it's like if someone came out with, because I tried to have a few people do this, if someone came out with a very simple single-shot rifle, like you've seen us, we've written about them, talked about them, just a single-shot, break-open, H&R looking kind of gun, and you chamber them in all of these cartridges, 32-20, you know, all these antique and interesting old cartridges, there's no doubt in my mind they would sell. Yeah. Absolutely they would sell.
Yep. Well, so many ideas, and there's so much back catalog of stuff for you to investigate if you haven't. That's the cool part, Roy. We've been doing this a long time. We know quite a bit, but we're never going to know it all. So it's a unlimited library of ideas and thoughts and calibers and guns, and it's a wonderful and fun rabbit hole to go down. So, Archaic Cartridges. I don't know that there's such a thing, is there?
No, I mean, if it goes in a gun, it still goes bang,
Yep.
I mean, and some people arguably will say a 1930 Ford Model A will still go 60 miles an hour, just like, modern car will go 60 miles an hour. Well, maybe not 60, but you get my drift there. So,
yep.
All right.
Exactly. Well, Roy, thanks for joining us. Thanks for suggesting the topic. And of course, we want to hear what you've got to say. Go ahead and leave us a comment if you're watching on YouTube. Call us FUDs. We don't care, because we are. And if you're not on YouTube, you just want to drop us a line, that's editor@gunsmagazine.com, and I'll send them along to Roy. It's gotten overwhelming at times. People, we are doing really well on the tube, and it's really cool. So if I don't answer you, I'm pretty sure, though, I saw your email, and I appreciated it. So we love to hear what you guys got to say. And Roy patrols the comments pretty regularly, and he might have a thing or two to fire back at you. And so make sure you let us know what you're thinking there. So, Roy, once again, it's hotter than all get out, so I'm glad we're inside recording instead of shooting. But as the sun starts to go down, you take that single shot out, or take your lever action out and put some love downrange.
I will, I promise. And, I think in a future show, we need to talk about the ransom rest. I just got a ransom rest, the new Master Rest series.
Yeah, those are cool.
I just finished the bench for it yesterday, and I did some preliminary shooting with it, and it is absolutely a miracle machine. And I think a lot of people know the name, but they don't really know what it is, and so we need to cover that in a future podcast.
We'll do that, and I need to get down to your place, so maybe we can stretch that ransom rest out. But until then, we'll appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk more in the future. Well, it's always great talking to Roy, and I hope we've rekindled a spark of interest in archaic cartridges among modern folks. Before we go, some housekeeping stuff. Of course, please like and subscribe. If you're the sole remaining person on the North American continent who hasn't, please do that now as I'm talking. If you would like to subscribe to Guns Magazine and actually get it delivered to your mailbox, you can do that at fmgpubs.com. There you can also buy our special interest publications, such as John Connor's Odd Angry Shot, Roy's Insider, and subscribe to both Guns and American Handgunner magazines. That's fmgpubs.com. Of course, make sure you stop by our websites, Guns Magazine at gunsmagazine.com, American Handgunner Magazine at americanhandgunner.com, and our other sister publication, americancop.com. It's not just for law enforcement, it's for Americans who just want to be prepared. And of course, there's our great sponsor, Armscor and Rock Island Armory.
The new STK from Rock Island Armory. Experience the power and precision of the Rock today. For more info, visit armscor.com.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. On behalf of everybody who works so hard here at FMG Publications, I am Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat, reminding you for another week, now get out there and get shooting.